Formula One fans, this is absolutely real. The confirmation has arrived that will change Formula One's future forever. Adrian Newey will become team principal of Aston Martin in 2026. When I read this news for the first time, I thought it was absolutely impossible. But it's all officially confirmed. And this media bombshell comes after an absolutely insane week. First, the double McLaren disqualification that completely reopens the championship, and now this explosive news that nobody expected. But pay attention, because this Newey appointment has enormous consequences for the entire circus. And the most important one directly concerns Charles Leclerc. Because with Newey in absolute command of Aston Martin, the transfer of the Monegasque driver from Maranello becomes practically inevitable. Stay with me until the end, because I'll reveal every single detail of this incredible situation. Let's start with the main news that's literally shocking the entire paddock. Adrian Newey, the most winning engineer in Formula One history, will become team principal of Aston Martin from 2026. Not just technical director as we all thought, but team principal. Absolute head of the team with complete decision-making power. We thought Andy Cowell, the current team principal, would simply be relegated to managing relationships with Honda as the engine supplier. But no! Aston Martin's management made an absolutely sensational move that caught everyone completely by surprise. They've given the complete keys to the team to Adrian Newey, and when I talk about complete keys, I mean absolutely everything. Because Newey won't only be team principal with managerial responsibilities, he'll also continue to be technical director with design responsibilities. He'll make crucial decisions both at the management level and at the purely technical level. This is something we haven't seen in Formula One for many, many years. Andy Cowell will become Chief Technical Officer, so effectively relegated to essentially managing relationships with Honda. A certainly important role, but absolutely nothing compared to being team principal. Cowell has an extremely important past at Mercedes as an engine specialist, when Mercedes dominated everything and won consecutive championships. But now Aston Martin's entire organizational structure is being completely transformed. Lawrence Stroll and Aston Martin's entire management understood something absolutely fundamental. In modern Formula One, especially with the budget cap that severely limits spending, you need a team principal who isn't just a classic manager. You need someone with truly extraordinary technical skills, someone capable of concretely looking toward the future, someone who knows how to perfectly manage every single euro of available budget. And who better than Adrian Newey can do all of this perfectly? He's literally won everything at Red Bull with very recent experience. He knows exactly how current Formula One works with all its technical and regulatory complexities. He knows perfectly how to optimize every single upgrade, knows when to bring developments to the track, knows how to manage cost centers. He's literally the perfect figure for this extremely delicate role. In a Formula One where the battle is as tight as the current one, a successful upgrade that arrives at the right moment instead of the wrong one can completely change your entire season. And we're seeing this right now with the incredible battle between Verstappen and the McLarens. And here's something that makes me laugh so much. Remember when Fernando Alonso years ago, when he was fighting hard against Sebastian Vettel at Red Bull, always said publicly, "I'm not fighting against Vettel, I'm fighting against Adrian Newey." Because he knew perfectly well that the real genius behind those consecutive victories was precisely Newey with his revolutionary designs. And now what happens incredibly? Now Adrian Newey first became the one who will help him technically design the winning car. And now he's even become his direct boss. His team principal with absolute powers. It's something absurd, wonderful, unthinkable. This is truly the pure beauty of Formula One. I'm incredibly curious to see Newey at the microphones in a totally unprecedented role for him. Because Newey has always been a very shy person, with the typically analytical mentality of a pure engineer. He definitely prefers staying behind the scenes working, rather than in front of cameras talking. And now he'll find himself having relationships with the public in an extremely important way. He'll have to constantly talk to microphones, give in-depth interviews. It will be absolutely fascinating to see him in this new role. But here a question spontaneously arises that burns inside all of us fans. Those complete keys that Aston Martin gave to Newey, Couldn't we have also given them to him at Maranello when we had the chance? Why didn't Ferrari do the exact same thing when they had the concrete opportunity to have Newey on their team? When you give complete keys to such an extraordinary figure, or rather when you don't want to do it, it's because you think your historical prestige, your consolidated pride, your traditional organizational structures cannot contemplate that the last to arrive chronologically, even if he's the absolute first in technical prestige, can manage everything with complete powers. Ferrari lost an absolutely historic and probably unrepeatable opportunity. And now Aston Martin takes advantage of it in a sensational and intelligent way. To Aston Martin now, for 2026, I virtually shake hands and say with conviction, well done. You did absolutely right to take Newey and especially to position him at the head of the team with complete decision-making powers. And now we arrive at the absolutely crucial point of this entire incredible story. Remember this year's summer break? That famous photo that came out with Charles Leclerc on Lawrence Stroll's yacht in Sardinia? With them was also Nicolas Tot, Leclerc's historic manager who handles his career. At the time, that visit was completely downplayed by mainstream media. They said it was absolutely normal practice, that drivers always explore the market to evaluate future opportunities. But now, with Newey becoming team principal with absolute powers, that photo takes on a completely different and much deeper meaning. It was absolutely clear that the two were planning the future together. An important post came out from Amner Time, a very attentive journalist who brings the situation back to prominence. He says that Leclerc represents the modern incarnation of elegance, sophistication, and absolute class. Values that have always defined Aston Martin's identity, the same ones that made it a cultural icon through James Bond. The journalist is absolutely right. Charles Leclerc, for the class and natural elegance of his figure, never has a moment out of place, never an inappropriate attitude. Always perfect, always impeccable, always sincere. This type of figure is typical of English elegance and the characters who made Aston Martin famous worldwide. It's as if Leclerc was born specifically to drive an Aston Martin. And now let's put together all the pieces of this complex puzzle. What exactly would Leclerc find going to Aston Martin? Let's start with the economic aspect. Aston Martin is extremely wealthy. Lawrence Stroll has an enormous personal fortune, and then there's Aramco, the world's largest oil producer in Saudi Arabia. One of the oil companies that literally governs the world with its infinite petrodollars. The economic problem of convincing Leclerc simply doesn't exist. They'll propose an impressive avalanche of money on the table, absolutely astronomical figures that would make the proposal almost irresistible by itself. But then there's Adrian Newey. Now, not only as technical director, but as team principal with absolute powers. All Formula One drivers would want to drive a car designed by Newey, the undisputed genius of Formula One, the absolute number one. And there's Honda HRC as the engine supplier. Honda HRC made Ayrton Senna dream and win. It made entire generations of fans dream. And now it's the architect of Max Verstappen's magnificent successes. It's the number one engine partner in the world. With Adrian Newey at the top as team principal, Aston Martin's credibility index literally skyrockets. Not only because Newey has personal charisma, but especially because he has absolute technical credibility. He has the objective ability to completely transform a team. Journalist Teruzzi said that after the first races of 2026, Leclerc will evaluate and decide his future. And with Newey as team principal, that decision becomes practically obvious. How can Leclerc resist? On one side, Ferrari designing the 2026 car without a skilled technical director. On the other side, Aston Martin with Newey in absolute command, with Aramco and petrodollars with Honda HRC. Tell me if there's a reason why Leclerc should stay at Ferrari. I personally, having even just one of these elements, would immediately go to Aston Martin, let alone having all of them together. And now, with Newey as team principal with absolute powers, the proposal becomes literally impossible to refuse. The truth is that Leclerc is packing his bags. He's destined to leave the prancing horse. Ferrari will have to replace him, probably with Oliver Behrman. Let's prepare ourselves to see Charles Leclerc dressed in Aston Martin green.